Where's my Piers show? Do you think there will be any punishment, accountability, or anything from the Signal leaks? Nope. Maybe there'll be a fall guy, that Mike dude or whatever, but I don't think so.
As I also stated yesterday, nobody's texting war plans.
Maybe it's a black general or a woman. President.
The number.
Have you ever had somebody's contact that shows their name, and then you have somebody else's number there?
I never make those mistakes.
Right? You got somebody else's number on someone else's contact. So of course I didn't see this loser in the group. It looked like someone else. Now whether he did it deliberately or it happened in some other technical mean is something we're trying to figure out.
Yeah, it shouldn't be too hard to figure that out. President Trump is the grandmaster of deny and deflect, and he has enough legitimate grievances with the way he's been treated by legacy media to repeatedly pull that off. But with respect to Mike Waltz, he's no Donald Trump, and this might have gone away a lot faster if his first response had been, I'm sorry, this was a monumental...
Oh, is Piers defending Trump in this by also saying that this is literally 100% just on him and Trump and his choices and leadership and everything else had nothing to do with this? Okay.
Cock up. It was incredibly stupid, and I won't do it again. Instead, Goldberg's been attacked for saying the chat included classified information and detailed war plans, but failing to prove it.
Now the Secretary of Defense and the White House press secretary have said you're lying, have said there are no war plans there, have said there's no classified information. So the obvious question is, shouldn't you now demonstrate it? Shouldn't you publish the text?
No, because they're wrong. They're wrong.
But how can you prove that you're wrong? Maybe should you provide them to the House and Senate Special Committees on Intelligence, maybe? I don't know.
Wow. Well, you want to become my lawyer?
Well, Tim Miller will be joining us shortly.
And then he did publish him.
The Atlantic has indeed this morning published compelling new details on why the chat was clearly classified and obviously did include war plans. The texts make it blindingly obvious that that was the case. That only strengthens the point. President Trump's first 65 days in office has been a whirlwind blitz of reform, and there's plenty to celebrate and plenty to debate. Arguing that whether the dog ate Mike Waltz's homework should never have been allowed to take centre stage. For the first time in his second presidency, it's time for the president to wield his formidable index finger and use the words that made him world famous. You're fired. Well, joining me now is the host of Rubin Report Show, Dave Rubin, the Democrat congressman from Massachusetts, Jake Auchincloss, and Walkaway campaign founder Brandon Straka. And as I said, Tim Miller will be joining us.
What is walk away? Is it walk away from the Dems or some stupid shit?
Shortly. All right, Dave Rubin. I want you to pretend for a moment this was happening on Joe Biden's watch when he was president and involved a bunch of senior members of the Democrat.
Hillary's email, Hillary's emails, Hillary's emails, Hillary's emails. Don't ever entertain a hypothetical. Just go right to Hillary's emails, please.
Right.
Please go right to Hillary's emails. We don't have to think about this. It already happened with Hillary's emails.
I would imagine your response would have been Vesuvian.
Please.
In its rage and fury.
Come on, dude, you can do this.
So my question for you is, do you feel the same way now it's your side?
You just got to do the Hillary's emails, man.
Piers, I'm really glad you asked that question and framed it that way, because that's a great point, and we know that it's very rare to find people that'll be intellectually consistent when these things happen. I would predicate it first, just also hitting something you said in your lead up right there, which is that I think you could argue that every single decision that was made by the Biden administration was fraudulent, because he obviously was mentally compromised the entire time. You signed all of these orders by auto pen, and we don't even know if he knew about it, including just his last day in office, the way they pushed him out of running for re-election, et cetera, et cetera. So I think there's a broad sort of conspiracy, and I think you could argue probable negligence by all of the people who, many of whom weren't even qualified to have these jobs in the first place, because by his own admission, he often hired people based on their skin color and their sexuality, et cetera, et cetera. So,
but these guys are definitely qualified. Thank you for hedging 50 million ways to Sunday before actually answering the question. Good job. Did you consider Biden?
But okay, putting that aside.
Well, to be fair, he'd ask about Biden, but okay.
Did Tim Walz absolutely Mike Waltz, Tim Walz, thankfully he's not involved in all of this.
Well,
did Mike Walz absolutely make a mistake here? For sure. Are they allowed to communicate on Signal? It sounds like, according to CIA Director Ratcliffe, who testified yesterday on this, it sounds like it was pre-installed on some of their computers, and they were told they were allowed to. But was there a mistake adding this guy in? Yes.
That wasn't the mistake. The mistake was communicating this stuff on Signal. That was the mistake. Don't let him run from that point.
All made probably similar mistakes on iMessage or on Signal when you have two names that are similar or initials that are similar. Yes, I would say one other thing on this, though, which is that I don't necessarily agree with you that he should be fired. You know, what we've seen out of this administration, I think, and if you just look at the entire thread in Signal, it's competent people like Tulsi and JD and Hegseth
this talking
making
point,
cogent arguments for what they're doing. They show a little bit of disagreement. They talk about how Donald Trump feels about these things. And the American populace. So you see
Walz wasn't in there.
Wow, Dave, you missed out Walz. Is that deliberate?
Yeah, why didn't
on
you have
his
that?
comments in there?
No, you just listed 3 people and said they've done great things and speak really well. You didn't include Mike Walz. Was that deliberate?
No. Well, I think he's putting aside
Stop,
what he
we're
said
not
in the
playing
chat.
this
I mean,
game
I think he's
today. No.
obviously qualified for the job.
Stop.
Nobody was really doubting
Not
that
today.
until these last couple days. But the point
Is he though? Because actually, what we've seen in the last week with Mike Walz, we've seen a series of interviews he's given in which I would seriously dispute whether he's up to this job. He didn't seem to have any straight answers for Laura Ingraham when he appeared on that. I'm looking at a guy that I personally, the more I see and hear of him, the less qualified he seems to be. And it's hard for me to imagine, Dave, honestly. You know, a lot of my family have served at high level in the UK British Armed Forces. It is hard to imagine a more egregious thing than to be openly discussing times and weaponry use and intimate details of an imminent attack where US servicemen are going to be risking their lives in combat, and you're casually having this chat on Signal, and you've added a guy who is a Trump-hating journalist. I mean, and apparently we're supposed
Piers,
to believe this happened by pure chance because his name is under the wrong number in his phone. All of it is like, you know, over here we had a ridiculous comedy show called The Keystone Cops, where everything used to go ridiculously wrong. It's Keystone Cop stuff. And I just think look, we talked earlier about having an honest intellectual response to things is always the best way.
Yeah,
right?
the answer, for OPSEC or for software development or whatever, you have bad operational security if the user can make an error that fucks with your protection. Why are you doing this? When did you become like this? What are you doing? You're crashing out. You're on constant crash out mode now. There's no reason to be like this. You shouldn't be able to. You shouldn't be able to do something as a user that compromises the security of a given system. It just shouldn't be possible. It's one of the reasons why SCIFs are used, or why certain environments are used. Any time in 2025, maybe in like 2005, this is how InfoSec or whatever worked, you know, on computer systems, where you're like, oh, well, as long as the user doesn't do this, as long as you don't do this, or it should be good if you do, you know, don't do this. The way these systems are designed are that you can't fuck up. You can't make that mistake. It's not possible, right? Which is why Signal shouldn't have been used. The issue is not the mistake. The issue is the fact that this mistake was possible. And the reason why it was possible is because they were not following protocol. And the protocol here being you should be doing these conversations in an approved area like a SCIF, not on Signal, okay?
Right? There is no getting away from this. This wasn't just a mistake, as you politely put it. This was a monumental, egregious breach of every security guideline imaginable that could, and I stress the word could because the military operation, as it turned out, was unaffected because Goldberg did not do anything nefarious with this information. But had it got into the wrong hands, right, that could have imperiled the lives of American servicemen. And for that,
Piers,
I just think
would say,
if he was a senior ranking official in the armed forces, he'd probably already be gone, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. Our sponsors mean we can bring it to you for free. Support for today's show comes from Beam, who can help you out with an issue of utmost importance: sleep. Good sleep, as I can confirm, is the foundation of physical and mental health. Our daily performance depends on it. That's why we are delighted to talk about Beam's Dream Powder, a science-backed, healthy hot cocoa for sleep. It's tested for high-quality efficiency and formulated to ease your body into rest, supporting the 4 stages of the sleep cycle to help you fall asleep faster and stay asleep longer. Many other sleep aids cause next-day grogginess, but Dream contains a powerful, all-natural blend of reishi magnesium, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin.
Thank you.
It helps you fall asleep, stay asleep, and wake up refreshed. If you, like me, need a good lie down after an uncensored debate, you can try Beam's best-selling Dream Powder with 40% off for a limited time when you go to shopbeam.com/Piers and use code Piers at checkout. That's shopbeam, BEAM.com/Piers, Piers, and promo code Piers at checkout. Now, on with the show.
I'm not defending Mike Waltz adding this guy, right? Like Trump has to decide if he thinks that's an egregious enough error, and clearly it's turned into a bit of a scandal here. That's why we're talking about it. So Trump has to make a decision on that, whether he wants to do the
It's a bit of a scandal. I'm retiring in 2028. Okay, I can't handle it. I'll be gone. That's my last streaming day. I don't know. I'm just not going to be able to take any conservative seriously ever anymore. I don't think I can. I'm not going to be able to take any conservative seriously on any argument that they ever make about anything, I think, for the rest of my life. I don't know how anybody could. That at least anybody that was around in this like MAGA time period. Like how? What possible arguments could they make where you're like, you are the most hypocritical person in the universe to even pretend like you give a fuck about this, right? The fuck is wrong with this shit? Pipeline overextended. Yeah, that's what I put this fucking pump in for. Motherfucker. Do I need it back here? It's just, I don't know how the fuck you could ever take a conservative seriously ever again if they're going to talk about things like national security or whatever bullshit, because oh my fucking God.
Fired on that thing. As for them discussing this stuff on Signal, it still seems unclear to me whether they're allowed to do that or not.
It's
Again,
not.
Ratcliffe testified yesterday it was preloaded on their computers and
yes, Gmail and Outlook are preloaded on your computers and your fucking cell phones. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he doesn't believe this. He doesn't even believe what he's saying because this is such an unbelievably stupid fucking thing.
Their devices. So if someone's making the argument that they weren't allowed to discuss this stuff on Signal, that's different, but I haven't heard that argument made.
Oh my God.
As for again, I'm repeating myself, but as for the point of him being invited in, if Trump decides that is worth firing the guy, then that's Trump's decision.
Before I go to the other two
and I would be fine with it. That's why he's the president.
Right, before I go to the other panel, just to be clear, do you believe from everything that The Atlantic has now reported, including all these text exchanges, do you dispute that this was chat about war? Because it seems to me utterly indisputable.
No, there were
attack
attack
chat
plans.
about war. I mean, military strikes are
So we've
war
established
in
that.
essence.
So secondly, by definition, talking about an imminent attack on foreign soil by US military, by definition is highly...
Weren't they told Signal is an insecure app? Am I losing my mind? The thing that they're conflating is that Signal is a really good app. It might even be the best app when it comes to end-to-end encryption. But the problem is that there are... somebody knows more InfoSec words than I do, but there are issues that are beyond a particular application that Signal cannot solve for. It's not meant to solve for it. So for instance, who's using a phone? You have no fucking idea. Signal can be the most secure app in the world. And for all I know, it is in terms of messaging. That doesn't mean the other person on the other side of that phone is who you think it is, right? Somebody could authenticate into a phone. Somebody could get a device that they're not supposed to have. Like, there are ways that Signal can be quote unquote broken. You're not really breaking Signal per se, but you're in other ways you can impact who's viewing something that they shouldn't be. This is why SCIFs exist, is because these types of communications are supposed to occur in environments that go beyond just a phone or just a phone app. Fuck! Or my choke word. That go beyond just a phone app that ensure that the only people that are seeing a particular thing are the people that are supposed to see that particular thing.
Classified information, right?
Again, everything that was in the chat is fairly obvious.
No, I'm just asking you whether, as you know, there are lots of people on the right who are trying to dispute that it was classified. The administration are disputing it was classified. I think certain things are indisputable. This was war chat, and it was clearly, by definition, highly classified.
Well, but the issue is not whether it was classified or not. The issue is, are these guys, are Marco Rubio and Hegseth and some of these people involved in the chat, are they allowed to have those conversations on Signal?
No, they are, but it is being disputed.
So then what's the problem?
Well, the administration are disputing that the information itself was classified. And I think it's indisputable that it clearly was.
Well, I think you'd have to speak to a lawyer about that specifically.
Really?
If you were telling me they weren't allowed to talk about it on Signal for some reason, then that seems like a fairly obvious issue.
No,
but
that's
I'm not an expert in.
No, I'm not asking that.
I'm personally not an expert in what is classified and what isn't.
I don't think anyone has to be a lawyer or an expert, Dave. Come on. If this this is people talking with specific timings about an imminent attack on foreign soil by the U.S. military.
But the question is, were they allowed to talk about it on Signal or not? That's separate than whether Jeffrey Goldberg should have been invited into the chat.
Right, but I don't think I could think of anything that could be more highly classified. Can you?
I'm not arguing whether it should be classified or not, but they're allowed to have conversations. The question is, are they allowed to have them on Signal? And again, Ratcliffe testified yesterday
I'm not disputing
that Signal was preloaded on their computers and other devices.
Listen, on that, I think we need more clarity on that. Clearly, if you're just going to get random members of the cabinet adding whoever they feel like it, and they have people's names.
TLDR, the biggest security risk in InfoSec is not the technology, it's the incompetent user. Highly secure platforms are designed to mitigate how much the user can fuck up. Signal's not designed for that, it's designed for convenience. Listen, you might be an InfoSec guy and you know more than me, but so maybe everything I'm saying is retarded, but I would take issue with your statement in that Signal is designed to encrypt end-to-end messages, and as far as I know, Signal is the best consumer app available that does that. The problem isn't the technology, the problem is what is the technology used for. So, for instance, let's say that I wanna jerk off to porn at 1 a.m., okay? And I don't want my parents to know that I'm watching porn. So I download the most secure VPN. I'm using the most hardcore desktop environment that is unhackable. I'm using Temple OS from the N-word programmer guy, okay? I've got the best shit ever. Only I can, as soon as I turn my face away from the phone, it automatically replaces it with schoolwork. And it's the best, most awesome design thing fucking ever, okay? And then I boot my shit up at 1 o'clock in the morning, okay? And I fucking have a wild field day, jerking off to all sorts of porn. And then the next day, my parents beat the shit out of me, okay? I'm like, what the fuck? But I was using the best, most secure shit ever. And then mom or dad goes, oh, well, we just looked at the router logs and we can clearly see traffic at 1 a.m. And even if it is encrypted, what the fuck are you doing going to an IP address from fucking NordVPN at 1 a.m. Obviously, you're jerking it, you dipshit, right? The technology wasn't the problem. The technology was perfect for what it was, but you were using it in a way that it's not designed to be used. It can't help you with those types of issues. It can't disguise the fact that there's any internet traffic at all. There are other ways that people could discover stuff. So, for instance, when it comes to Signal, let's say, for instance, it sounds trivial what I'm saying, but like, let's say there's somebody standing over your shoulder reading your messages. Signal can't protect from that. And Signal, and it's not supposed to, it's not designed to, right? This is what a secured environment is for, right? That's all I'm saying.
Names in their phone under the wrong numbers, that's clearly a perilous situation which has to be stopped.
Absolutely.
Has to be stopped. All right, look, I've given you a hard time simply because A, you're Dave Rubin. You can take a hard time. And B, because actually it's really interesting to me, the intellectual honesty aspect of this. And I think you've been pretty honest, actually.
I'd love to hear the other panelists' thoughts on this.
I'll give you credit for fronting it out. Jake, let me bring you in here. I mean, the Democrats are clearly having a lot of fun with this, as they would. You know, I saw Hillary Clinton gleefully tweeting about it, and of course you would. And I understand why Democrats are so up in arms. Just, again, certain repetitive questions, but do you believe there's any doubt that they were having conversations about warfare, or that they were involving specific timings and
I think we
what
agree,
kind
we're
of
just articulating it
aircraft?
Differently. Yeah, sure. There's a frustrating thing. I think there's a frustration on some software engineers, and I think there's a frustration in general that sometimes people will say like, oh, well, this piece of technology isn't secure, or this piece of technology isn't good. But then the reason why it's not good or why it's not secure is because the user is using it in an application or in an environment that it was never designed to be used for, right? People will say things like, oh, Bluetooth sucks. And it's like, well, why does Bluetooth suck? Well, I'm trying to transfer a whole bunch of data to my neighbor, and I've got 457 Bluetooth repeaters set up between my house and their house, and I'm just having a lot of issues dropping. It's like, okay, well, hold on. This has nothing to do with your device. It has nothing to do with the Bluetooth protocol. The application is just fucking wild, right? That's all I'm saying. Sorry.
Are going to be used and so on. And secondly, that by definition, I think it's inarguable that that must be classified information.
Piers, I agree with you, and I don't think it's fun or funny, because this hypocrisy and incompetence is...
Like, keep in mind that if reports are to be believed, I don't know how verified these are, but one of the guys who was on Signal during all these plannings was either literally in the Kremlin or just in Moscow while this was happening. And it's like, bro, Jesus.
Gut punch to the American military. I was a captain in the Marine Corps. If I had shared highly classified operational plans over Signal, and yes, that's illegal, my career would have been over. Done. And Secretary Hegseth right now is lying to the American public. He is lying to Congress. He is lying to the military. in order to avoid the same accountability that would befall a captain or a corporal. And those double standards are toxic to the good order and discipline in the ranks. But even worse than that is this is incompetence incarnate. This kind of conduct is why America is being out-negotiated right now by Russia over Ukraine. The Russians are protecting their Black Sea fleet. The Russians are protecting their assets in Europe. The Russians are getting sanctions relief, and they're giving up nothing. And the reason they are able to have these wins in these rounds of negotiations is because Donald Trump is sending these Keystone cops to get out-negotiated.
I haven't seen any proof that he was active in the chat during this trip. He was invited, wasn't he? He doesn't have to type a message in there to read messages from there. Yeah?
By hardened Kremlin apparatchiks. It's embarrassing and it's dangerous.
It certainly is dangerous. Brandon, I'll come to you now. I mean, I want to play a clip. Tim Miller interviewed Jeffrey Goldberg from The Atlantic, who broke this story and was the guy on the call. And he talked here about somebody being named in the conversations. Let's listen to this.
There was a covert CIA operative named on the thread, right? So I mean,
well, yes, and I withheld her name.
Oh, he did say
this.
covert CIA.
They named somebody who's an active CIA officer in this thread, which is on Signal, again, a commercial app in which I'm watching.
Somebody said you're speaking of PhysSec, so I'm guessing that stands for physical security. But this is an issue of improper ComSec, which is usually resolved with hardware going over crypto-isolated networks. SIPR, for example. Okay. Well, but this issue wouldn't have been a ComSec issue. This issue is literally a PhysSec issue, no? The fact that these conversations were, well, it's part of it.
You know, and I withheld it. I didn't put it in the story because she's undercover. But, I mean, the CIA director put it into the chat.
I just found that.
Has that been confirmed? Because I thought in one of the hearings I listened to, I think I listened to this one off stream because it was boring. I thought in one of the hearings I heard, they said that the CIA named person wasn't an undercover operative. It was just the deputy director of the CIA or something. Does anybody know if that part that he just said has been confirmed or?
Again, staggering. If this had not been, I mean, it's unbelievably good luck for the administration that it was Jeffrey Goldberg, even though he hates Donald Trump and the administration. If in Mike Waltz's phone, he had, say, the Russian ambassador's number, which had accidentally been attributed to whoever he was trying to add to the group. And that CIA operative's name was then in the hands of the Russian ambassador as a CIA operative who might even be operating in Russia, for all we know. You can see how cataclysmic this could have been if it had been somebody else who'd been casually added to that group. I mean, Brandon, can you defend any of this?
I would go on record as saying I think it's a misstep for sure, but I mean we could sit here until the end of time and come up with hypotheticals about what could have happened and how
Stop saying what could have happened. It's about what did happen. What could have happened would be if we had a New York Times story reporting that people were using Signal to communicate high-level war plans. That's not what happened. What happened is what did happen, which is that somebody who was absolutely not authorized to be in those conversations was in those conversations, right? It's just the fact that I can't want to call him Goldberg. Is it Goldstein or whatever? Was a friend to the United States and didn't dump this information to, the Houthis or to Iran or whatever. We're just lucky that this guy just happened to be a journalist. I mean, what I think what Piers said, right? Even if he hates the Trump administration, he doesn't hate America.
Cataclysmic and terrible it could have been if this person had been added or that person had been added, but the fact of the matter is that's not what happened. What did actually happen is that we had an incredibly successful airstrike.
The talking points.
In the long run is going to have a
good
very
impact for the United States
on global trade
and Europe.
And
oh my
security
God.
Around the world. So I mean that's what we really should.
His name is Jeffrey Goldberg. Okay, wait, what? Who? I thought somebody corrected me when I said Goldberg the other day. Fuck you guys. This talking point. Mine. Did I not mine uranium? The fuck?
Talking about was that this was an incredibly successful mission. And sitting around wasting time, I think, talking about all the terrible things that could have happened.
So just to be clear.
It's what did happen.
So
it's what did happen.
If the National Security Advisor under Biden had done this, you would be very...
You can't ask conservatives hypotheticals. The media people at least have already proved that they'll lie about anything. They have no honor. They have no integrity. They're not good Americans. They're not good men. It's bullshit. He's going to say, oh, well, I would say, oh, it's a small blunder or whatever. And that's it. They're never going to be honest about how they would have acted. Because if this had happened under the Biden admin, it would just be, we wouldn't hear the end of it. This would be like almost, I don't know, would this be another like Benghazi or Hillary's emails situation? Maybe.
Keen would you, in that eventuality, to be extolling the virtues of the successful mission and not the fact that he'd added some random journalist to the group chat with the foremost senior defense people in the country talking about an imminent strike on the Houthis? Be honest.
Well, I think if we're going to compare the two things, then let's compare them across the board. Because number one, I would say that if a reporter from The Atlantic or most left-wing media outlets in the United States had been added to that, they probably would have contacted the Biden administration and let them know that they had made an error, and then they would have run cover for them in any possible way to make sure that this never got out and it never escaped.
Really? Can you give an example? This is where, if we were doing real journalism, can you give an example of that happening? Because I seem to recall infinite wall-to-wall coverage of the Hunter Biden shit, of the fucking laptop story, of the fucking Hillary's email shit, of the Benghazi stuff. I feel like of Joe Biden's fucking senility after that debate. Like, I feel like I've seen wall-to-wall coverage of these media outlets being endlessly fucking critical of the Democratic Party, but...
And to that point, I would say that this kind of thing probably did happen under the Biden administration.
Oh, okay. Fuck, hold on. Fuck, I keep missing where the puck is going to be. My bad. I keep trying to think of, like, you got to head them off where they're going. Okay. I didn't consider the defense, because usually you just claim that they've already done a thing, but now he's, like, inventing a hypothetical that they've already done. Like, he's not even... Or no, I guess, no, this is just a strategy of they've already done it. Okay, never mind. No, okay. This is a strategy we've identified, right? Remember, the Republicans can do anything because the Democrats have already done it, even if we have no evidence of that actually happening. Okay, based.
Numerous times, and we never found out about it because more than 90% of the media in the United States...
You don't know that.
There we go.
You don't know that.
You don't know that. True.
I don't always pick the healthiest food options, and I'm sure you don't either. We're all human and we're all busy. That's why doctors created Field of Greens. One delicious glass of Field of Greens is like nutritional armor for your body. Each fruit and vegetable in this drink was selected by a doctor for specific health benefit. There's a heart health group, lungs and kidney groups, metabolism. It's all very complicated, but not with Field of Greens because it's all in there. It gives me energy, but it also gives me the confidence that I can be traveling or, shock horror, enjoying a sneaky burger. And I'll still be getting all the nutrition my body needs daily. Only Field of Greens makes you the better health promise. Your doctor will notice your improved health, or you'll get your money back. We've teamed up to give you a 20% discount on your first order. Just use promo code Piers at brickhousenutrition.com/Piers. That's code Piers at brickhousenutrition.com/Piers.
Piers, I mean, it took us about 5 minutes to get to the MAGA's favorite excuse for everything, which is to whine about the media. It is amazing what snowflakes the MAGA Republicans have become. Everything bad that happens, they blame journalists for. Can you guys ever take responsibility for your own mistakes?
Well, funny enough, it's interesting you say that.
I did.
It's interesting you say that, because if I honestly... Look, Donald Trump wasn't involved in this. And if I was Donald Trump, I'd fire somebody. I'd make a point of saying this really matters. Secondly, and I would fire Mike Waltz if I was him, for what it's worth. But secondly, I would also, I think, urge everybody that was on that call who's now being interrogated about it. I've just seen Pete Hegseth. I like Pete personally. I've known him, worked with him. And he's just issued a statement saying, let me get this straight. The Atlantic released the so-called war plans, and those plans include no names, no targets, no locations, no units, no routes, no sources, no methods, and no classified information. Those are some really shitty war plans. It only proves one thing. Jeff Goldberg has never seen a war plan or an attack plan, as he now calls it. And then I'm reminded that one of Pete Hegseth's messages on the group was weather is favourable, just confirmed with CENTCOM. We are go for mission launch at 14:15. Strike drones on target. And this is the Houthi WhatsApp group. WhatsApp group, Signal group. Brackets, this is when the first bombs will definitely drop. It's hard to imagine anything more specific than that. There's the exact time. the exact way they're going to do it. That's the first thing we're going to see. And if you're a nefarious person reading this, you could obviously use that information in a very damaging way to America. Now, I simply say this to you: I wouldn't care if it was the other way around. It happened under Biden. I would be exactly the same with Democrats that tried to defend this. I would want some intellectual rigor and consistency, and the ability to say this is a massive fuck up of epic proportions, and someone's head's got to roll, because otherwise it means people don't think it's serious. And Pete needs to stop putting out these statements which try to minimize stuff that is contradicted by his own messages. And I say that as a mate to him, right? So look, we've got Tim Miller's joined us now. Let me bring Tim in at this stage.
Oh, hey.
Tim, I like your interview
What up, Tim?
with Jeffrey Goldberg, but it just seems to me, and again, just to stress, if it was the other way around, I'd say exactly the same thing. I don't care which side is doing it. But anyone that tries to defend this or downplay the severity of it or play whataboutery or anything else, I think it needs to stop. This needs to be accepted for what it was, a tremendous error which could have had tremendously serious consequences. And if it was a senior military person who'd done it, they'd already be gone.
For sure. Look, to that senior military example, look, Pete Hegseth has already fired several generals. He's fired several people throughout the Department of Defense. So is Elon Musk as part of the Doge process. Imagine, we're doing the hypotheticals. What about Biden? I think the more apt hypothetical is, imagine if, a low-level general who was involved in this operation had texted the exact time and location of a military strike to an anti-Trump journalist. Now, and imagine if that general is one of these woke generals that they're going after. Maybe it's a black general or a woman. Imagine what Pete Hegseth would
not
be
a black
saying
general
today.
or a woman. True.
Imagine what Dave Rubin would be saying today. We know what these guys would be saying. These woke generals, they're the deep state. We need a court martial. We need an investigation.
Yep.
This person needs to be fired.
Yep.
I think we can all agree that is what would be happening today. That person, if they were a 2-star black general or female general and they had done this, they would be fired today. I think that's very obvious. And so, look, Pete Hegseth might be a mate of yours, might be a good person. I don't know. I've never met Pete Hegseth. But to me, you read this signal chain, and this looks like it got its way in over his head. Ooh. And this is not, if General Mattis here, it's impossible to imagine General Mattis texting emojis and all caps pathetic to like a signal group chain, preparing them for when the strikes would be. It's just, it signals to me somebody that's not serious. It's not up for the job.
True.
The fact that then on the chain, he says, we have 100% operational security here. And there's someone on the chain he doesn't know. You didn't check to make sure you knew everybody on the chain. I think it shows just an unbelievable lack of seriousness. And I think clearly if this was one of the woke generals that Pete Hegseth doesn't like, they would be fired today and there would be a DOJ investigation targeting them.
All right, Dave Rubin, a lot to unpack there, but a lot I agree with, I have to say. Look, let's talk about the signal aspect. If they, as you say, and I've seen that report, if they were encouraged to use Signal, and in fact, it had been put on a lot apparently of their phones.
Stop this talking point. Stop
when
this
they came
talking
into their
point.
positions. So they're allowed to use Signal, which is deemed to be one of the more secure ways of communicating.
Not for classified
and you believe,
conversations.
as Pete Hegseth clearly did, that you've only got on there the Secretary of State, the Defense Secretary, the National Security Advisor, and so on. In other words, all the senior members of the cabinet that would be involved, plus one or two hand-picked staffers who are at a very high level. If you assume that's who you're talking to privately, then I'm not too fazed about emojis and stuff like that. You've got to have some presumption, I think, when you're conversing with people at that level, that you presume to be that level, that it will remain private. So I'm not sure I can get too exercised about that part of it. The thing that still exercises me, though, is just that if it hadn't been Jeffrey Goldberg.
Exercises? What are these fucking bongerisms? Let me use the restroom. Hold on one second.
but had been somebody who wanted to really damage the administration, they really could have done. And you could have seen American planes blown out the sky.
Sure. Look, there's a couple of things going on here. First off, I think your guest in the center, I'm sorry, I don't remember the congressman's name. I think he said it was illegal to use Signal in these chats. Now, again, Ratcliffe, who is the CIA director, is saying, as you just said again, that it was preloaded on their computers and devices. So I don't think that's illegal, but if there's some legal portion of this.
Well, just for the record, it's
You are not allowed to share
Jake
classified material
Auchincloss.
over Signal.
Thank you, please. And you as well from Tim. Wait, is he part of the Bulwark as well? Please keep repeating that. You're not allowed to share classified material. Please stop.
Well, just to introduce you again, Jake, for Dave, it's Jake Auchincloss, who's a Democrat congressman from Massachusetts. So, Jake, you want to respond to him?
Okay, so, well, there's some issue as it pertains to whether
you
Signal
cannot
should
share
or shouldn't have
classified
been
material
used.
over
We can all
Signal.
accept that.
Okay, so that's interesting. So, all right, so Congressman, just to be clear, it is illegal to share classified information over Signal. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, the military has its own entire network. They have SCIFs inside the homes of every senior military commander. They have SCIFs co-located with the Secretary of Defense precisely so that they are not putting highly classified operational plans on commercial messaging apps. It's illegal, full stop. And Pete Hegseth needs to own that accountability, because if this happened to a corporal or a captain or a general, their career would be over. He shouldn't have this job in the first place, and my goodness, he certainly shouldn't have it now.
Dave,
I misspoke. Limb fail. Sorry, bro. Get him out of here.
And I don't dispute what the congressman just said. Then, should Pete Hegseth consider his position? It's a legitimate question which Republicans would be asking of a Democrat.
I don't know. I can only hear the information that you're hearing on the fly the same exact way. If it turns out that they were told you are not allowed to put classified information in a Signal chat, and they went ahead and did it, even though it was preloaded on their computer, and Ratcliffe testified that he was briefed by people at the CIA about using that stuff.
Not for
well,
classified
then there's
material.
a secondary problem. And also, it should be reiterated, I don't think anyone here is defending the fact that Mike Waltz apparently let this guy into
That's not the
chat.
problem.
So there is some intellectual consistency here, and it's up to Trump. Trump has to decide what he wants to do right now. Does he think this is a big enough scandal and it's worth firing a guy that he just brought into NSA or not?
It's not up to Trump. I don't know why you're saying
Trump.
See, this is the problem with the way Republicans. This is the problem with the way Republicans are acting these days, is they act like a board of advisors.
Democrats
to the
just had 4 years of a president with dementia and a completely unqualified cabinet and virtually
completely unqualified president with dementia. And that president with dementia, with all the unqualified people, wasn't having planes crashing all over the United States, wasn't having TRO after TRO thrown up trying to prevent every single action that he's been involved in, wasn't literally losing other conservatives, in this case liberals, elections in other fucking countries all over the world, right? In these huge swings in electoral favorability, wasn't causing trade relationship issues with every single, what? It's such a bad look to say that Biden was senile if your president, who's not senile, is doing worse in basically every single comparable way. It's
everyone that had anything to do with it. So tell me more about the Republicans.
The Republicans act like a board of advisors to a CEO as opposed to a separate and co-equal branch of government. They have abdicated their responsibility.
True.
Mike Johnson acts like a courtier. John Thune acts like a courtier.
True.
They're the ones who confirmed this junior varsity squad of people who are getting out-competed by the Kremlin and out-negotiated, who are being laughed at by the Chinese Communist Party right now as they prepare to blockade Taiwan. This is threatening the safety of the American people. These people are not fit for the office that they hold, and all Republicans in Congress can do is shrug their shoulders. It's pathetic.
Did Joe Biden have dementia?
Hello?
And we had 4 years in.
We're not
Do you think
talking
Joe
about
Biden
Joe
was mentally
Biden.
competent to be president for 4 years?
Better than Trump,
Do you think
apparently.
Joe Biden knew things
It's
that he was signing
amazing
for
the
4 years?
whataboutisms. Why
That's
do you
not
bring up
whataboutism.
Hillary
I'm just
Clinton
asking you a
too?
question.
Do we want to talk about Barack Obama's tan suit as well? You would do anything to not have to talk about the fact that the Secretary of Defense.
No, it's not fair. Don't bail him. Don't bail him out.
Was Joe Biden mentally
both sides
capable of being president?
Let's
Yes or
all
no?
accept Joe Biden was mentally unfit for office. Let's accept that. As we've been talking, there is a report now that Pete Hegseth and other Trump administration officials are being sued by a government watchdog group for using Signal to discuss the military plans to strike Houthi targets in Yemen. American oversight alleges in its lawsuit the chat on the unclassified commercial app that mistakenly included the Atlantic's editor-in-chief, Jeffrey Goldberg, violated federal records law. So that does appear to be something that is now an active lawsuit. Tim Miller, just to bring you back in on this, what do you think should happen? I mean, in terms of accountability, at the moment, there's a sort of Trumpian playbook of them all doubling down, launching.
Boasberg already ordered them to keep records. Unless it works differently for high-up government stuff, that doesn't matter. He might have asked them to keep records, but evidence of preservation of evidence request is only going to be at the time it was issued or at the time you knew a lawsuit was coming. So they could have already wiped everything. Then that order gets issued, and they're like, oh, sorry, we already deleted it. And then that gets you're fine. So, and then who knows how many other conversations have been deleted. So.
A lot of whataboutery attacks back, but nobody wanting to actually say it's a fair cop, Gov, and I better stand on my sword.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that there should be an actual investigation into this. I don't really have any hope that the Pam Bondi or DOJ or Kash Patel FBI will take this seriously. But I think there should be. And I also think that, sure, Mike Waltz should be accountable for this. And Mike Waltz was on Fox last night. This is crazy, Piers. Mike Waltz was on Fox last night suggesting to Laura Ingraham that Jeffrey Goldberg might have gotten on this Signal chat deliberately. That's what he said. He said it might have been deliberate.
Am I supposed to put solar panels up here?
That's our national security advisor. Like, that's a very serious accusation. He's saying that a magazine editor might have committed illegal espionage. And so, but he just doesn't want to actually take the accountability. Because to find out whether or not that was true, you'd need to have a real investigation by DOJ or by a special counsel, and they don't want that because he knows it's him. So he just wants to throw out those lies willy-nilly, and it's kind of an absurd lie, really. Actually, if some boomer magazine editor was able to sneak onto the chat illegally, that I think speaks even more to how incompetent the administration would be, other than the true story.
Yeah, I found it slightly more disconcerting that his second explanation, because he had quite a few on the Laura Ingraham interview, was that somehow Jeffrey Goldberg's number had been under somebody else's name in his contacts list. And just to remind the viewers watching this guy is the National Security Advisor for the United States of America. The idea that he doesn't know.
He has no idea.
Whether everyone's name in his contacts list is attached to the right number and can therefore be communicating with God knows who without any actual knowledge that they are who he thinks they are is frankly terrifying.
Yeah, it kind of is.
When you think about who his contacts may include, I mean, Brandon, can you find any explanation for this that makes any sense? This guy's the #1 security guy in the country.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I think it's not a great situation, and I think that the messaging that's been put forward by him at this point has not made people feel terribly confident. But again, at the end of the day, I maintain the fact
was a good
that
operation.
It could have been a bad situation.
But it wasn't.
I think at this point it should be investigated. I think that obviously communications are going to be tightened up. They will learn from this experience. I don't think anything like this will ever happen again. Probably shouldn't have happened in the first place.
Probably.
I do agree that from what we know so far, it doesn't seem like any laws were broken by using Signal.
Look at the minimizing language. Always. With Hillary, we know 100 billion trillion %, even though there was never any evidence. We know for a fact that information was used improperly and there were bad business dealings going on. We know for Hunter Biden 100%, even though there's no evidence of it. We know for a fact that there was bad stuff going down with the big guy and everything, right? But for this, where we clearly, clear as day, can see that something bad actually 100% happened. I mean, most likely it was like a bad thing that happened. Probably. Like, seriously?
I don't think that we have any evidence at this point that the information being discussed could be determined as classified. I don't think that's been definitively determined.
Come on, Brandon.
Like, I don't know if that will ever be definitively determined. Like, what's going to happen? Is the DOD or somebody else going to publicly issue a classification marking for something that's already been made available to the public? Is that ever going to happen? Has that ever happened? Like, I don't know if that's, like, come on.
Let's come back to planet Earth and reality. Right? I literally cannot think of anything that could be deemed more highly classified than openly talking in a group of people
about attack plans
on a platform where it is unlawful to talk about classified information. And I take the congressman's word for that. And certainly this lawsuit seems to reinforce that is the case, or they wouldn't be launching it. But the idea that these specifics that they were talking about, times, weather conditions, type of aircraft being used, who they were attacking, and they're giving a running commentary on how it was going with emojis, punching the air and American flags and so on. The idea that that doesn't constitute classified information makes me wonder what on earth you think would. This is before they were doing this 2 hours before an attack. What could be more classified? I mean, I'm prepared to be educated. I just can't think of anything more highly classified than that information. Can you?
I can appreciate your position, and I can appreciate how passionately.
Well, what's your position?
I can appreciate my position is that I would like to wait for an investigation to determine whether or not this is classified.
There's not going to be an investigation.
I
There's
think
not. There won't be. Wait, this portable fission reactor, does it need fuel or does it automatically provide power?
that it's not. I think that it's not.
Yeah, who's investigating it? True. Oh, wow. Oh, I'm sorry. I forget sometimes. It doesn't need fuel based. Okay. Because the Tim guy, the guys from the Bulwark, these are the actual like center left lib people, but they actually know how the government works and they know how this stuff, like they know things. It's nice to hear political companies know things. There will be no investigation. Who's going to do it? Well, let's see. Who's responsible for the classification markings, right? What was the originating body? Who had the original classification authority? Let's see. Who is our Department of Defense in the United States? Let's see. Who is the head of Department of Defense? U.S. Ooh. Oh. Okay. Well. Okay. Well. Is oh well that's awkward. So Pete Hegseth, who is the one who's being accused of being part of an improper group, he's the one that is the original classification authority. So if anybody was going to deem it classified, it would have to come from him. Okay, well, that's awkward. Okay, well, who's going to investigate it? Well, it could be the Trump Department of Justice. Oh, so Pam Bondi, she's going to be the one to do this? Are we going to have a special counsel that's going to be elected to do this? Because remember, the Republicans don't even believe special counsels are constitutional when they're investigating them, right? So nobody's investigating this. It won't happen. Tim is 100% correct, okay? Tim is 100% correct. This will never be investigated.
Going to be an investigation.
I think that it's not. I think that it's not determined. If it were determined, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about it right now, and there wouldn't be congressional hearings right now where this is being discussed and determined.
Well, I'm sorry. What? What is a congressional hearing? Do you think that a congressional committee is going to do their own little bullshit investigation? I guess maybe that could be the case, but like when it comes to referring, for criminal charges or whatever, right? Kash Patel, head of the FBI, he's not doing anything. Pam's not going to order anybody to do anything. Like what's going to happen?
I don't even know. I saw Tulsi Gabbard yesterday giving evidence at the Senate, obviously.
She said it wasn't.
She repeatedly said it's not classified information. To which my question would be, well, Tulsi, what is? You know,
but my point is that it is being debated. So you can feel strongly that it is, but the fact of the matter is it's not been determined to be.
How can talking about a war operation 2 hours before it's about to happen not be highly classified? Unless you think that should all be openly discussed.
There's a difference between what?
Well,
Piers, he's not going to do. No, wait, let him talk. Is he going to do the? There's a difference between war plans and attack plans. I want to hear him say that if he's going to do that. Please let him do that. Is he really going to do? He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that.
You're never going to convince
I'm not defending it.
You're never going to convince
there is a difference between an airstrike and a war plan.
Oh my God. They all get the things beamed into their head. It's Neuralink. The reason why Elon Musk wasn't able to deliver on full self-driving, wasn't able to deliver on the underground tunnels, wasn't able to deliver on, what's the only project that he's delivered on, right? Arguably, is Starlink. Why is that? The reason why is because Neuralink was the secret project that he delivered on, and he uses Starlink to beam orders into every single conservative brain. That's why. That's why all the other companies were failing. It's why Starlink is worth so much. That's what's going on.
I've got more, to be honest, I think I've got more.
What an unbelievably fucking stupid argument, dude. Holy shit. They weren't war plans. It was an attack plan. I can't believe they ran with this defense.
Chance of convincing. I've got more chance of convincing Dave than I seem to have with Brandon. I mean, Dave, let me just bring you back.
It's not going to happen because
hang on, I want to play the Tulsi
version of cancel culture.
Well,
they can't step outside the leader's box.
Give them the benefit of the doubt.
Can I talk about why? Piers, can I talk about why this matters to the American public, though?
Yeah.
Because this matters to the American public because America used to be known as a country that was no better friend and no worse enemy.
And also, real quick, this is why I get on you guys or August sometimes. People are like, oh no, like don't make a single mistake in anything you say ever because they're going to find a way to capitalize on it and it'll destroy your whole message. You should do the best you can. But I feel like this is the best example of it doesn't matter what you say to some extent because they're always going to try to find something to hold on to, right? Like, are we really going to say that, was it The Atlantic that went with that titling, attack plans? Did they really commit a fatal flaw by saying it was attack plans instead of war plans? Like, it's so stupid.
Now we're picking fights with Canada.
You should still be careful with your messaging, though. But
that was no better friend and no worse enemy. And now we're picking fights with Canada and we're appeasing Russia.
True.
And the rest of the world doesn't know what kind of a friend we are.
True.
And they don't know how seriously to take us as an enemy.
True.
And when they see this kind of incompetence, when they see this kind of hypocrisy, when they see this kind of chaos and corruption coming out of the Trump administration, it makes Americans everywhere less safe because it makes our adversaries take us less seriously, and it makes our allies trust us less.
It was a successful operation.
It was a successful operation.
It was a successful operation in spite of the cock-up.
Also, it was a successful operation. Good job. You bombed the Houthis. Like, do you want a fucking pat on the back? Congratulations, okay? These guys give 8-year-olds AK-47s and send them to fight. Like, good job. You, like, congratulations. My God, so brave. You bombed Houthis with F-35s. You're so brave. I don't think they were F-35. I don't remember what planes these, but like, come on, dude.
Let me bring Dave back in. Dave, I want to play
at the same time.
Hang on. I want to play a clip. Hang on. I want to play
over the Black Sea, which Mike Walls can't even point out to on a map.
Yeah, okay. Let me just play a clip of Tulsi Gabbard from this, talking about whether she was even on the group.
So, Director Gabbard, did you participate in the group chat with Secretary of Defense and other Trump senior officials discussing the Yemen war plans?
She did
Senator,
not lie.
I don't want to get into the specifics.
Ma'am, were you on? You're not going to be willing to address. So you're not. Are you denying?
She just said she couldn't recall. Okay.
Answer my question, ma'am. You were not TG on this group chat.
I'm not going to get into the specifics.
So you refuse to acknowledge whether you were on this group chat.
Senator, I'm not going to get into the specifics.
Why are you going to get into the specifics? Is it because it's all classified?
Because this is currently under review by the National Security
Because
Council.
it's all classified? If it's not classified, share the text now.
I mean, Dave, I thought that was a very good question, a very good way of skewering Tulsi, because he's basically saying, look, the only reason you wouldn't be prepared to confirm that obviously true fact.
Everyone is saying F-18s in chat. I don't know why. I mean, I'm sure there's a variety of planes they could have used. You're not going to know exactly which plane that they use. It's not like the U.S. is going to come out and say, oh, wait.
You were on the chat, because we've seen the chats, would be if you deemed it classified material, which by definition now we believe would be an unlawful act if they were talking about classified information on Signal. So he kind of trapped her there, didn't he?
Sure. Again, there's a couple of things going on here. Number one, I think we're all in agreement that Walt screwed up by putting this guy in the chat. That's number one.
Screwed up.
There seems to be a little, for everybody.
It was a goof. Just a little silly goof.
A little legal confusion around whether Signal can be used or not. The congressman saying it absolutely can't for classified information. Ratcliffe is saying not only was he told it could be, but it was preloaded on their computers. So why did the CIA put it on their computers? I think that's really worth thinking about.
I agree.
If it is illegal to use as a mode of communication, why is it put on their computer?
True, TJA. True. Yesterday, we heard again, remember, the Department of Justice was arguing, okay, that the departure times of commercial airliners in the would it be commercial? That planes taking off from Texas in the United States of America, we heard the Trump admin argue that that was classified. And so the information couldn't be released for the people that we were deporting to El Salvador. That was classified. But F-18 strike cells being put together for targeting, but that's not classified. Really? That's the argument we're running with? This administration is incoherent.
Well, to be fair, to be fair, Dave, to be fair, on that point, you can use Signal, but the point being it's illegal to put classified information on the Signal.
Yeah, this is not complicated.
They're not saying you can't use Signal.
That might be true. It would be a little odd that they would preload it onto the CIA director's computer then, but...
It probably also has Windows. It probably also, what is this? This is just the dumbest argument. Is it banal or banal?
Banal.
Banal. This banal argument, okay? This is the most tired, stupid, retarded fuck argument you could ever deploy here. Come on.
Okay, we can put that there.
Which is
Look,
a
as for
perfectly
what
valid
Tulsi
question.
said-
I agree.
Yeah, as for what Tulsi said there, she's saying there's an investigation, so she's just not going to comment on it right now. I mean, that's what virtually every official does with every hearing we've ever seen. So I'm not going to sit here and throw her under the bus for that.
Do you think, Dave, anyone should be fired?
Nah, come on.
I think look, Walz made a cataclysmic mistake.
Okay,
right?
now it's
He's
cataclysmic,
basically admitted it
but
at this
still
point.
just a goof.
And just like I said 20 minutes ago, if Trump makes the estimation that stupidity, sheer stupidity, whether it was that he had the wrong name in there or he just, we all have multiple people with the same initials or whatever it might be, whether it was just stupidity, ignorance, not understanding signal, whatever that might be. If Trump deems that fireable, then so be it. If I was the president right now and I had knew that this group existed, would I probably fire the guy who created this firestorm? The answer is yes. But Trump has to make that estimation.
It's a perfectly reasonable and honest assessment. Thank you. Let's just change tack. I think you'll enjoy this one a bit better,
Can we
Dave.
do trans people,
I'm going to
please?
start with you, Tim, on
Oh,
this.
please
This
be
is the
trans
Democratic
people.
Texas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett talking about the
This
Texas...
is more my style. I appreciate
I thought
that,
you might
Piers.
enjoy this. Yeah, talking to about the Texas Governor Greg Abbott, who, of course, is wheelchair bound. Let's take a listen.
Y'all know we got Governor Hot Wheels down there. Come on now.
Oh.
And the only thing
Did she
hot
just-
about him is that he is a hot ass mess, honey.
Did she just
Tim,
do
not only
ableism?
did she make a crass, repulsive
Oh my
jibe
God,
about the fact that
repulsive.
Greg Abbott is a disabled man in a wheelchair, and that is
Unbelievable.
clearly indisputable in my eyes. She then did this. She issued a statement saying, I wasn't thinking about the governor's condition. I was thinking about the planes, trains, and automobiles he used to transfer migrants into communities led by black mayors, deliberately stoking tension and fear among the most vulnerable. Literally, the next line I said was that he was a hot A mess, referencing his terrible policies. At no point did I mention or allude to his condition, so I'm even more appalled that the very people who unequivocally support Trump, a man known for racially insensitive nicknames and mocking those with disabilities, are now outraged. Now, Tim, you're an intelligent human being. You're a fair-minded human being.
Am I?
She's talking utter bullshit, isn't she?
The statement
Wait, how can I
was
see
not
my
necessary
power-
or
overall
great
power
and
consumption out here?
obviously untrue. I think she should have just wrote it out with the joke.
True,
Everybody
she
can make
should
a
have.
judgment about whether they appreciate a joke at Greg Abbott's expense. I find it hard to imagine that my co-panelists from MAGA world are going to start clutching their pearls over somebody making a mean joke at somebody. Then that's like the core to
No,
the
but we're
president
not the
of the
people who
United
get
States'
outraged over
entire
jokes. It's
ethos.
you guys who get
like the
outraged
president of the
over
United
jokes.
States
That's the
made
difference.
Made it. Excuse me, Dave?
Tim, the difference is that we are not the people who get outraged over every joke and every
Yeah,
word
right.
and every sort of innuendo. It's you
Okay,
guys
I'm
who
glad.
do.
Well, so good.
So
So then
I'm
we
not
have another
outraged
agreement. I like
at the
agreements.
joke. I'm outraged at the fact that a human rights campaign fundraiser where it's about all the marginalized people and the perceived oppression of the trans people and everything else, that there she's making a joke about disabled people and they're laughing about it. I'm not
Oh,
outraged
no.
at the joke. I make far worse jokes than that on my show every single day.
I mean, let me bring
Yeah,
in...
so we're slicing it kind of thin there. So we're going to pretend to be outraged about her joke when the president of the United States core brand is making these sort of jokes. So I wouldn't, if I was her, I wouldn't have put out the statement afterwards. If it's me, I don't know. I think that Dave's kind of business model over there. I don't take money from any Russian assets. Like that's just me. So I'm able to just kind of say
you
what I
just
really
take money
think
from
on here with
MSNBC,
Dave. You never
champ.
know.
Good for you.
Why would you think that's an own? Yeah, I get paid by, American media companies when I do work for American media companies. That's your go-to ownage point there compared to undeclared Russian money. Good one, Dave. Holy shit, Dave just fucking destroyed Tim over here. How will Tim ever recover?
So I understand why he might not, he might want to pick his spots.
All right, well, let me
That's
bring
some
in...
great work you're doing at Bulwark, a real solid place of journalism over there.
But we
Keep it
haven't
up.
taken.
It is actually fairly solid, and they're decently successful, right? I think there's like a lot of they have a lot of podcasts and shit over there now, right? I don't know. I guess I don't know how much is like actually their shows. Like I don't know, is Scott Galloway and Kara Swisher and these guys, are they like officially part of the Bulwark? I'm not actually sure. I don't know, but
taking any money from the Russians at the Bulwark, Piers. I don't know if you know this, but Dave took $400,000 per month from a Russian.
Per month, sorry.
From a Russian information operation.
True.
And so you'd understand why.
And what was the name of the show that I did for the Russians? Tell me
right
that.
Right now is just handing things over to the Russians. He has to pretend to be outraged about things. You know, just you don't know who's paying the bill.
What was the name of the show I did for the Russians, champ?
It was Tenet Media that paid you. Tenet Media.
What was the name of the show?
Right?
What was the name of the show?
$400,000 per month and a $100,000 signing bonus. That not you?
Yeah, you just literally don't know what you're talking about.
It's so crazy. Do you remember when it was on Kick or Keep with the guy who was accused of doing a crypto scam? I want to say Sammy something, but that wasn't his name. Fuck, who am I thinking of? Who am I thinking of? Sam Pepper, yeah. This is the exact same debate strategy. I called Sam out when he was doing on Kick or Keep, but when you've been caught doing something like bad and somebody's trying to nail you down on it, you have to endlessly equivocate and endlessly quiz and interrogate on every single minor fact, right? Say that everybody knows that you murdered Tom, and then, you know, somebody accuses you there on the show, like, oh, didn't you murder Tom? You're like, did I really murder Tom? Really? I murdered him? What weapon did I use? Do you even know the time of day? Oh, okay, sure. Do you know what kind of knife it was? You don't know anything. You have no idea what the fuck you're talking about, right? It's the same type of debate strategy. It's fucking epic.
100,000 media that paid you. Tenet Media that paid you. Is that right? 400,000 per month and a $100,000 signing bonus. That not you?
Yeah, you just literally don't know what you're talking about. Which is standard. You work for MSNBC and the Bulwark. It's impressive.
All right,
okay, so that wasn't you then. You weren't commentator one in that indictment there, Dave? That wasn't you?
Yeah, I was commentator one. It was nice to read something honest about me, that I did all my due diligence trying to figure out what was going on over there. What was the name of the show? Tell me about the...
Do I need to do I need like inserters and belts and everything in space? Do I need all that?
Propaganda I put out there?
What was the name of the show? Tenet Media that was paying you. Tenet Media was a Russian. What was the name of the show? It was an RT cutout.
Yeah,
it was a Russian cutout. An RT cutout. They were paying you. I've never been paid by a Russian cutout, so I don't exactly know how it all works.
You're paid by MSNBC, which is state-owned propaganda.
Really? The state runs MSNBC? Oh, like right now then, Donald Trump owns MSNBC. Is that what you just said? Donald Trump and Marco Rubio, I guess, the State Department owns MSNBC right now. Why don't they just dictate to them to stop putting mean stories out about Trump? Why is Trump suing state-run media departments? Is it a different state or what? Like, what a stupid fucking comment.
Paid by the Bulwark, which should be just called bullshit. That would be a better name of the network. Whatever the hell it is you people are doing.
Could I jump in on
What was the name of the show that I did? What was the name? You don't know.
I've told you several times,
because you don't know what you're saying. Very impressive.
Let me wrestle things back. Time out. Let's wrestle things back to the actual.
I'd rather talk about Jasmine Crockett's eyelashes.
Let's talk about Jasmine Crockett. I want to bring in Jake here. I mean, Jake, presumably you would condemn both the joke and the statement that was obviously a pack of lies.
Yeah, Piers, I agree with Tim that the outrage Olympics is a little tiresome and rings hollow. I also am an elected official, and I know that what is communicated is not what is said, it's what is heard. And what was heard from her statement did strike me as reflecting the governor's disability. And I don't think that's funny. And that's rule number 1A as a politician is if you're going to make fun of somebody, make fun of yourself. That's what's actually going to get laughs. So I don't think it was an acceptable statement. And I don't think it's acceptable when Trump mocks people with disabilities. I don't want to see Democratic politicians do it either.
And so her statement was therefore, by definition, from what you said, a pack of lies, right? In which she played the race card, the Trump card, the disabled card. There wasn't a card she didn't try to...
Is it playing a card when you're talking? I disagree with that assessment. I think she should have just owned it. I don't know why unless maybe this is just like her way of like politically messing with these topics. But typically when you say somebody played a card, they're doing it to like, they're doing it to get themselves out of a particular situation where they're saying like, where they're talking about themselves. Like, oh, you're only saying this because I'm black, or you're only saying this because I'm a whatever. But she was saying he's doing these things to black people. I don't know if you would say that's playing a card per se. I don't think. Playing the card, I think, is usually you're accusing somebody like attacking you on some characteristic, I think. I mean, this is being a little nitpicky, but...
Play in an effort to deny what we'd all heard with our own ears.
Here's what we should do as a country. We got to stop talking to people based on immutable characteristics and start talking to people as Americans, as individuals with inherent worth and dignity. Focus on what unites us. Focus more on the unum than the pluribus, in e pluribus unum.
Jake,
and stop
Jake,
with
you wouldn't
both
even have a
the hard
party
left
if
and the hard right
the Democrats
baiting
didn't
each
divide
other.
people by race, gender, and sexual orientation. You wouldn't even have a party. Your party wouldn't have a platform. So what are you talking about?
Damn.
And I'd love to sound off, honestly, on this issue of Jasmine Crockett, because this is representative of a really pivotal moment in my life. This is why I left the Democratic Party 7-8 years ago.
Why?
Because I believe the left-wing narrative that Donald Trump had mocked a disabled reporter, which actually turned out to be yet another Democrat Party liberal media lie. We're still talking 8 years later about Donald Trump mocking a disabled reporter, but people want to excuse Jasmine Crockett actually making fun of disabled people when Donald Trump actually wasn't making fun of disabled people. But then, of course,
You're right, Brandon.
Well, to be clear, Donald Trump was making fun of a disabled person. Now, you could maybe make the argument that Donald Trump didn't know he was disabled, but Donald Trump was making fun of a disabled reporter. I don't know why we would just lie about that, but okay.
Donald Trump doesn't make fun of anybody. You're right, man. You nailed it.
Well,
on
let's
that
play
one.
the
You
clip.
nailed the liberal
All right,
media.
let me
It's
play
so
the
obvious.
clip.
Liberal
No, hang
media
on.
is out to get Trump.
Hang on.
If it's so
Hang on.
obvious-
I'm going to play the clip. I'm going to play the clip.
Please
Let's
name an example.
Wait, Brandon. Let's play the clip. Let viewers remind themselves.
If I destroy
of what Trump
this,
did
will I get everything
of
that this is
talking
already
about
mine?
a reporter who does indeed have a disability. Let's watch.
Written by a nice reporter. Now the poor guy, you got to see this guy. Oh, I don't know what I said. I don't remember. He's going like,
It will
I
go
don't
to the
remember.
hub? Oh, wait, does it?
Maybe that's
Oh, it
what I
does.
said.
You're right.
This is 14 years ago. They didn't do a retraction.
Now, Brandon, Trump did vehemently deny he was mocking the reporter's disability. He has a disability with one of his arms, but he certainly
it doesn't go to
like
that. Fuck
he
you.
was, right? And I remember, well, I do remember the Democrats getting very outraged about it. But, you know, to the congressman's point, should we all try and elevate
Thanks,
all
Megan, for the
ships
$9.99.
here in the way that we talk about people on a personal level?
Well, hang on, because first of all, you did what the left-wing media does, which is take that moment out of context and assign a false meaning to it. What we haven't talked about is that Donald Trump has done that
Just like
exact same
January
voice and
6th, right, Brandon?
that exact same
January
voice and
6th
that
was
exact
just
same gesture.
it was an episode.
All right.
You were just
Sure.
at the Capitol.
We'll talk about a
It was a
4.5-year-old
false narrative
riot
out
and
of
just-
January 6th.
Yeah,
That's why you have a criminal
great.
conviction.
Ooh.
Actually, I don't. I'm pardoned
Just
for
a false narrative.
for my-
Oh my God! Did he really say that? Actually, I don't. I was pardoned by Daddy Trump. Daddy Trump actually said I'm A-okay, so fuck you. True. Wait, why the fuck did this just auto launch? Do I have auto launch turned on?
For my non-violent misdemeanor charge for standing outside of the Capitol shooting video. Yes, I've been pardoned for my Class B misdemeanor charge. But calm down. I'm going to finish my point. Donald Trump has done that exact same voice and that exact same gesture numerous times throughout the years when he was imitating anybody who was flailing because they were caught in a lie. He was making fun of the fact that that reporter who happened to be disabled was flailing because he was caught in a lie. What the left-wing media did was freeze frame a moment from that, put it side by side with that reporter, and say that he was making fun of his disability, which in itself is actually disgusting what the media did. But Donald Trump was not making fun of a disabled reporter. What Jasmine Crockett did was actually make fun of a disabled person and then double down and turn herself into the victim and play the racial identity card instead of apologizing for what she did. And I'd like to know, where's the Democrat Party outrage about this? We're still talking about Donald Trump 8 years ago.
To be fair, when it comes to intellectual honesty, both of the
You should just say, we actually concede to the Republicans on that. You guys won the culture war. We think making fun of people is based and not having any decorum, because you said it yourself, decorum isn't part of being the president. The president's not elected for his decorum or anything like that. So you guys won on that. So we're just going to go ahead and make fun of you guys now when you're disabled and retarded. Boom. Easy.
left-wing members of the panel have both said it was wrong, and they both said they don't believe her statement. I'm not sure what more you could expect. I was pleasantly surprised to hear that.
Well, Tim didn't really say it was wrong, and Jake said that it was sort of wrong, but that we need to stop playing identity politics in this country.
Well, Tim said
which
her
is literally
statement
the
was a
platform
load of
of his
nonsense, which
entire
I totally
party.
agree with.
Literally his party's platform.
All right, I think we can all agree she was obviously.
I said her statement was nonsense, and I just want to say, maybe me and Elon Musk agree on something. Let's legalize humor. We're really going to get 5 middle-aged white guys on here just like tisking people over a little joke. I mean, like, honestly, like, Jasmine shouldn't have lied about her statement. I appreciate that Congressman Auchincloss says he wouldn't make a statement like that, but this is silly. Isn't the whole point of your guys' platforms that we shouldn't have cancel culture? We shouldn't get so outraged about everything. Like,
nobody's calling for cancel. Nobody's yelling. We're responding to a question on a TV show.
It's so fake.
Well, the trouble, Tim, is that when I haven't checked in the immediacy of what you've just said, I haven't got the capacity to do that. But if we went back to when Trump was seen supposedly mocking that reporter, and he denied it, like I said, what did you say at the time? Did you take a view that...
I didn't like that. I didn't like that at the time. It's been 10 long years, Piers. It's been 10 long years.
Tim, my point is, everybody names. So would you like to apologise for being?
We've had a change.
So would you like to apologise?
There's been a change.
All right, but Tim, would you like to be apologise then for overreacting to that? Do you want to lead the way here?
I don't want to apologize. I think that we've had a change in what is acceptable discourse in this country in a way that I probably don't like. I wish we could go back to 2015 where we didn't do this, but we had an entire ecosystem that you guys just profit off of.
Yeah, you said it was great.
What do you mean you guys? Hang on, what do you mean you guys?
Tim, you're literally the only person on the panel who's engaged in
Hang on, Brandon, let me... Hang on one second. Tim, the only difference, Tim, between you and me is that I'm pretty much in the centre. You're to the left.
I'm in the centre.
Dave's to the right. Right, I don't know what you mean by you guys. We're not all on the same page.
I said, like, back in 2015, my point is that in 2015, we Donald Trump, I think we can all agree, changed what was appropriate discourse in this country. And he really crafted it and coarsened it. I think a lot of people are upset about it.
And what
you're
happened
the only
as a fallout
is that anybody that was upset about it, there was a whole media ecosystem that grew, that defended him and defended it, and said that anybody that anybody gets outraged about this is a snowflake, and that we should be allowed to make jokes at all this country. And so the coarsening of our politics has happened, and now we're here. And I don't get outraged over Donald Trump making jokes anymore, and I don't get outraged over Jasmine Crockett making jokes anymore. Things have changed. Donald Trump changed things. You guys wanted it to change. I mean, you guys in this case, Brandon and Dave. And here we are.
Dave, do you want to respond?
But you're the only person who's engaged in personal attacks
we can speak more freely and honestly about things. We have a less censored internet now than we did 10 years ago. Donald Trump uncovered all of this deep state nonsense. He uncovered the collusion with mainstream media and big tech and the government to silence.
The collusion with mainstream media and big tech. He's right. We did see collusion between mainstream media and Donald Trump in the form of Fox News carrying lies from his administration to the American people. Fox News is the largest mainstream media organization in the United States. They lost a $800 million lawsuit, that they settled because they carry those lies. And we have seen collusion between social media and Donald Trump because Elon Musk is I can't even say he's partisan. He's literally the most part. He's part of Trump's administration. He's this fucking right-hand dude. He's talking more in cabinet meetings than anybody else. And this dumb motherfucker's not even on the fucking cabinet. Okay? So, yeah, we do see collusion but it's you guys doing it.
People. These are all good things. I got one for you, Tim. For example, very fine people. Hoax or not hoax?
Not a hoax.
You work at
Don't
the
do it,
Bulwark.
Tim. It's not a hoax. It's not a hoax, Tim.
Journalism. Very fine people. Hoax or not hoax?
wrote a very extensive story on the very fine people thing. Hoax or not hoax? Yes. And I think if
hoax
you
or not hoax? One word.
It's not that was not a hoax. He said that.
It's obviously not a hoax. If you want me to explain why, people can go read Robert Trzynski's story. He was there. He's in Charlottesville. He's a conservative. He explains why it's not a hoax.
You can go read
that if you want,
or I can
explain it, whatever you want, Dave.
It's not a hoax. Good job, Tim. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, you can explain it. Donald Trump, for 10 years, Joe Biden literally ran his initial campaign for presidency saying Donald Trump said very fine people on both sides.
He did.
What was the line that Donald Trump said next, Tim?
Right after very fine people on both sides?
Yeah, what did he say after that?
I don't remember what the exact sentence was right after.
I'm not talking about the white supremacists or the neo-Nazis who should be condemned completely.
It was literally exclusively a neo-Nazi march. The particular one that he's talking about, I'm not going to make you guys watch it for the billionth time, but Ben Shapiro did a really good video on this a long time ago. Those are the only people that you could have been speaking of. That's it. But, what are you going to do?
But you work for the bulwark, so you are in the job of laundering the mainstream media lies. And now we are in a position to fight against those lies. So you hate independent people who are allowed to actually tell the truth because they use their own minds instead of being NPCs like you who are just regurgitating basically state-sponsored nonsense.
Dude, you were taking Russian money. You're not using your own mind.
What was the name of the show, Tim? Do you know
no
what
one knows the name of the show, which is even more embarrassing because you got paid $5 million to do it.
What was the name of the show?
Let me bring in.
Come on, Tim. You might have Googled it.
Let me bring Jake back in.
If you've given the money back. Have you given it back?
Nope.
Did you give it back?
Nope.
Oh, you are a clown. You are a clown.
Oh, no answer.
You literally don't know what you're talking about. What was the show that I did? What did I say that was Russian propaganda? You have literally no idea what you're saying.
Like Tim's response there should be, so you're saying that you're saying that your default messaging with no input at all from the Russians was good enough for them to pay $5 million for? Does that make you think about the types of things that you say about supposedly your country? That should be the next line.
I've never been indicted for taking Russian money. I've never been in an indictment for taking Russian money.
Oh, now Ruben's going to get in with that. Well, I wasn't indicted for taking Russian money, although he kind of corrected saying he wasn't in an indictment, but it wasn't about Dave Rubin, so Ruben's about to go hard on that point next. He's so excited that he just said that. He's so excited that he just said that.
Let me bring in Jake.
Was I indicted, champ?
Can we?
In an indictment.
The Russian talking points. The Russian talking points being parroted on this show are less concerning to me.
It's just endless.
Then the Russian talking points. The Russian talking points being used by Steve Witkoff, who is actually.
Not in this debate, but you know.
Jesus. The Piers guys, you have to do something about the fucking delay here. Jesus Christ, is so fucking obnoxious.
Okay. Stop with the lecture for somebody who has defended the January 6th insurrection against the United States government. I do not want to hear you talk about false narratives or talk about drivel. When the two conservative panelists on this show launched attacks against a free and fair election, one of whom has a criminal conviction for it, and trying to make themselves through performance art look like they're some kind of martyrs.
What have you said about January 6th? I was literally on a show with you, and you wouldn't say anything about it. I remember this. It was a good moment for me.
You two attacked the tenets of this democracy. You have no platform. You have been an apologist for the MAGA right-wing false narrative around January 6th. I was in the building that day. They were trying to hang the president, the vice president of the United States. They were trying to attack members of Congress, all in order to steal the voters' voice and vote of the 2020 election. So you two do not have credibility talking about Charlottesville, talking about left-wing media narratives. Please spare me. What I'm focused on right now is Russia and the fact that this administration is
you're not very good at this.
appeasing.
What you're focused on right now, you just talked about a 4.5-year-old riot for 5 minutes.
Parroting Russian talking points as they are negotiating for Ukraine's sovereignty and independence, and it puts Americans at risk.
All right, Dave, last word, given he whacked you there.
Yeah, look, Piers, as I always come on your show, I tell the truth. I tell people what I think. They can agree or disagree. And, well, I'd love to find out if Tim knows if there's very fine people on both sides. Again, not of this debate.
I would encourage you both to continue that fascinating debate after we finish. Got to leave it there, chaps. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Piers.
Piers Morgan Uncensored is proudly independent. The only
so fucking epic. Wait, let me get some food. Hold on.
The boss around here is me. If you enjoy our show, we ask for only one simple thing. Hit subscribe on YouTube and follow Piers Morgan Uncensored on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And in return, we will continue our mission to inform, irritate, and entertain. And we'll do it all for free. Independent, uncensored media has never been more critical, and we couldn't do it without you.